part, this video is about the alimentary canal, also known as the GI tract or the digestive system. So here I have my little diagram. So before we start, the digestive system and the way food moves through the digestive system all starts in the mouth. Before food is even taken in, the salivary glands actually start to produce saliva and they activate. So here, food would be taken into the mouth through here, and these two small circles, these represent the salivary glands, which would secrete saliva into the mouth, which are signified by the arrows highlighted in pink. The food, after sufficient chewing and after the saliva, it kind of helps with the breakdown of food. It helps with water balance, and it helps break down starches as well. Once it is sufficiently broken down, the esophageal sphincter will actually relax to allow food into the esophagus, which is this long tube. And the epiglottis will close, so then you can't choke on your food. Once the food is in the esophagus will actually do a series of muscle contractions called peristalsis to help the food move down and drop into the stomach. That's the stomach right here. The stomach is known as just kind of like a container to hold food while stomach enzymes break down the food. And once the food is properly broken down, it will move through the stomach into the first part of the small intestine, which is known as the duodenum. So here we have our liver, and our liver actually secretes a substance called bile, and bile helps break down specifically fatty foods. So here, bile will be secreted into the small intestine, specifically the beginning called the duodenum. And here we have our pancreas, and our pancreas will actually secrete something called pancreatic enzymes, also known as pancreatic juices. And that is also secreted into the duodenum, which basically these two different enzymes, the bile and the pancreatic enzymes, they both help the small intestine further break down and digest foods. So once food moves from the stomach into the small intestine is actually made up of three parts. It's the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. So the jejunum is mostly responsible for breaking down foods and substances. The jejunum and the ileum, which should be somewhere in here, are further responsible for the absorption of nutrients and sent those nutrients to the bloodstream. So once all that is processed in the small intestine, we then move to our large intestine, which is this right here. And the large intestine basically just takes whatever leftover waste and finishes processing that. And this leftover waste usually starts off as a liquid, and it then turns into a solid. And once the descending colon actually gets full, which is the last part of our small intestine, once the descending colon gets full, everything will move to the rectum, I'm not sure if you can see, but the rectum is this small circle right here at my fingernail. And at this point, what we have is stool. So once the rectum receives this stool, sensors like send a message to the brain, and they basically decide, is it okay to let it go, or do we need to hold on to it a little bit longer? And when the contents are released from the rectum, the rectal sphincters become relaxed and the rectum contracts, which then passes everything to the anus, which is this last little section right here. The anal sphincter muscles actually control the stool. The internal sphincter is what helps us from accidentally like pooping. And the external sphincter is what relaxes when we're ready to release everything. So once we're ready to actually like go to the bathroom, the external sphincter will relax, and it will release the content, which is at this point completely waste. It is digested food and dead blood cells, and that is how we get a bowel movement. So I'll just kind of reiterate everything. What I have highlighted in pink with arrows, it just shows the secretions and where they are secreted to. And then we have just, you know, my little diagram with all of my organs labeled. And the yellow highlighted is where food is processed and the procession of food, while the orange highlighted is just the names of all of our organs. Thank you.